Welcome to Portland Tea Party. I am Ciara Pressler, your host of your favorite show about Portland, the tea, and where the party's at. If you were sitting in front of your screen last Friday, crying, shedding a single tear because we were not here for you live, it's because I was on vacation. I took the most wonderful road trip, favorite one down the 101, seeing all of the Oregon coast, all the way down to California. And I just can't recommend it highly enough if you haven't done it. There's so many amazing towns and nature and sites. Like the Oregon coast cannot be matched. You all know that. Well, it is just revving it up when it comes to politics. And you know, we're not talking about federal, although the debate is on Tuesday and I am not missing that. Also, I'm not watching it alone because I'll pull my hair out. But locally, thank goodness the deadline for submitting that you are running for office has passed. It was in August, and now we know who our candidates are. Do you know who all your candidates are by heart? Absolutely not. Nobody does, because there's like 20, 25 in all four districts. Do you even know which district you're in? Probably not. So we're going to talk about all those things over the next few weeks. We're going to be totally ready to vote. I might even vote live with you, which I think you maybe aren't supposed to do. No, your vote is private, but I tell people who I voted for. I'm not going to tell you because I'm not endorsing, but I will teach you how to vote. Teach me how to vote. Teach me how to vote. My rap career is on hold for the time being. A lot of cool things are happening around town to educate candidates on how the city works, and not just Portland Tea Party. But I love this. So the city itself, the transition committee, certain nonprofits, including the one we're at today, and one that I serve on the board on, instead of endorsing candidates, we are educating candidates about what we do, how it works, what we think their platform should be, why it matters. And so with Better Portland, which we heard from the executive director, Stephen Green, a couple weeks ago, we put together an advocacy letter. It dropped yesterday about what we think the local and small business platform should be for all candidates, all leaders that touch business at the city level, but also the county, metro, and state. And so we're distributing that right now. If you'd like to read it, it's in the Portland Business Journal, and it's also on Better Portland's LinkedIn. And it talks about the risk we face if we don't change some of the things we're doing for local business. And we know that local business is what makes Portland super awesome, super special, a livable place for all of us. We all have our favorite locally based businesses, business owners, and people visit Portland because we have an extraordinary amount of unique businesses right here on street level where people can visit. So check that out. Again, LinkedIn, Better Portland's LinkedIn, or in the Portland Business Journal. And thank you, PBJ, for publishing that. Well, let's get away from business. Not quite, but go to the business of sport, because I am here today at Sport Oregon, where we're going to talk to the CEO right after this. All right, well, welcome Jim Etzel, CEO of Sport Oregon.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Do you know what you've gotten yourself into?
Well, I got my seatbelt on. I'm ready to roll.
Good. Well, Jim, I respect you so much, and it's been a pleasure over the last few years to learn about what is Sport Oregon. So for people who've never heard of Sport Oregon, or maybe walked by your amazing office right across from the stadium, what is Sport Oregon? What do you do?
So Sport Oregon was founded in 1992. We are two nonprofits. We're a 501c6, which is a nonprofit business association, similar to a chamber or a travel bureau, et cetera, convention bureau. We're funded by 125 to 50 companies and individuals that believe in our mission. Our mission is to drive economic prosperity and positive social impacts and quality of life impacts in Oregon communities through sports. So our investors believe on the value of that in our community to be a vibrant, vital place to work, to live, to play, to, families, everything. And so without them, we're not in place. And then alongside that, we have a 501c3 foundation And the goal of the Sport Oregon Foundation has always been to break down barriers to physical activity for underserved youth communities. What that looks like is less programmatic, and it's us trying to elevate and amplify existing, especially micro nonprofits that have a hard time generating money, and basically, powering them with grants and so forth, and telling their stories for them to a broader audience. And then 3 years ago, we launched an initiative that we've been, cooking in the kitchen for about 5 or 6 years. The idea of it called She Flies, and I'm sure that's going to come up a little later, so we can talk about that. But She Flies is really, an initiative around young girls and young women, empowering them, addressing the inequities that to level the playing fields out there. And it's not just stick and ball sports; it's any activity, physical activity, empowerment activity. It could be dance, it could be drama, it could be anything. Just the importance of involvement and engagement in your community, in your school, and it is going to lead to outcomes throughout life that just give you a much better chance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the first thing I want to say is, if your first reaction to Sport Oregon, which probably would have been mine too, is like, I'm not an athlete, or you like regress to high school and you're like, oh, the jocks, I'm an arts kid, actually sport encompasses so many other things. Like, I love going to a Thorns game. I love going to a Blazer game, but also my nephews play ball. Like, one of my nephews is in mountain biking team, and my other nephew does baseball here in Oregon. And, my sibling, and, I run or have run, races like 5Ks to marathons, and even like going kayaking is sport. So talk a little bit about the breadth of
you brought up arts. We're having conversations and engagement and collaboration now with the arts and event communities, and with the understanding that all of us have three core deals. We're all economic. Our community and people that live and work in our community benefit by our existence and engagement and the events we bring. We're social. It's a place for us to all gather, whether it's arts, it's music, it's museums, symphony, ballet, opera, sports events, all the same as far as that. And emotional. We go to these things because they make us feel better. And so that's a shared outcome and a shared goal going in for all our, to exist and to thrive. And then when you stop and think about it, people say, well, arts venues need this and sports venues need this, and they're competing. No. They, again, are all places for us to come together, to bind together as a community, unify around each other, put our differences aside, but also stop and think. Our biggest arts venues are actually our sports venues. If we didn't have an NBA team and a hockey club, we wouldn't have a facility like the Moda Center. If we didn't have the Moda Center, guess what? All those major concerts and family shows would not be stopping in Portland.
Right.
Okay, then what? Now all of a sudden our quality of life, us being a top 25 city, don't exist. And so when you put it in that perspective, and just 3 weeks ago, Foo Fighters in Providence Park becoming a performance venue.
Right.
Outside
I just got chills. So important.
And that opened us up to another sector, and that's that concert tours that need a capacity of over 18,000. There was nowhere between San Francisco and Seattle for them to come. And so there was an opportunity in the market. Yeah, it was an economic opportunity for the performer, but it's also a quality of life opportunity for us as citizens. So like when we pull back and put sports and arts, no, we're all the same. Our community, to be vibrant and vital, absolutely needs thriving communities across the board in those areas.
Yeah, I'm going to take it a step further and say that, with the changes culturally that we've been undergoing, everything from what the Surgeon General would call like an epidemic of loneliness to people in younger generations maybe having kids later, or not going to church as regularly as in the past. We need places to gather and have social connection and community, or the idea of like a third place. You have home, work, and sometimes home and work are the same place now. So you need another space to go and interact with people that aren't one of those. And I think, I was thinking yesterday, like the gym has been that for me.
Yeah.
Other ways of like maybe meeting other parents when your kids are playing sports or something become that.
Each one is a highly valuable community within our community, right? And whether we're going to youth sports or high school sports, or we're going to, high school drama production, I mean, we come together to celebrate, our kids, and we're all rooting for the same outcome: success on stage, success on the field. We just tend to take it for granted, but it's all about just pulling, the fabric, the threads in the fabric tighter together, so we're more tightly knit.
Yeah, and when you talk about economic impact, which I definitely want to talk more about, as an Ashland last weekend, where do we spend our money? Going to see Oregon Shakespeare, and the next day going rafting. So we're putting money into the economy on both levels. I like what you're saying about the overlap.
Yeah.
Talk more about economic impact. So like for a regular Portlander, why does that matter?
Well, I know we get into, I'm going to step back away from the performance deal just a little bit, is there seems to be, at times groups that like, big companies, big corporations, or middle market companies and small businesses, none of them can exist without the others thriving. The most recent example is downtown Portland.
Yeah.
With corporations not coming back to work, and that presence, and even some companies moving outside of the downtown core. Hundreds, maybe thousands of small businesses have been negatively and severely, in some cases, impacted.
Right.
And so small business community suffers immensely without a strong top. It's like any ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's the ocean, big fish, Pacific fish, and small fish, but they need each other to thrive. And so, the economic impacts that we do here at Sport Oregon, how do we affect the economic vitality of the city? Well, the biggest outcome of sports from top to bottom, so like youth sports, adult recreation, all those things, is we call it sports tourism, all the way up to the top level of NCAA women's basketball regionals being here, or maybe someday an NBA All-Star game, or the Rockstar Energy Tour Open that was just in downtown Waterfront Park with 33 Olympic figure skaters, or not figure skaters, skateboarders.
We'll take that
too. We've had that too in the past. We had the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. But, those impacts, they directly affect the hospitality industry directly, hotels, restaurants, and then small businesses probably are next with little boutiques and so forth, because not everybody's here in the arena or at the game the whole time. They're looking for sidebar things to do, just like you talked about. You went to Shakespeare's Festival, but you ended up going on the road.
And we went to restaurants, and we went to locally owned hotels.
So let's use some examples. If like Rockstar Energy Tour, the skateboard event in Waterfront Park, 3,500 contracted room nights for the core of the city on a weekend. We all know how hotels have been struggling. That's big.
Because also the hotel tax goes, it helps those businesses that are hotels, but even if they're like a Marriott and they're not based here, how does that help Portlanders?
How does it help Portlanders? Yeah. Those taxes flow through down into our government programs, social services being the biggest, public safety being the biggest. If we're not seeing visitors, we're not generating lodging taxes. And that flow through does not happen. We also don't have the money that the lodging taxes generate to, do deferred maintenance on the facilities that these events are happening. And so it's all a connected environment. And so that's why we talk about vibrancy and vitality. That's why all these things are equally important. The Blues Festival, something we take for granted. It's really tough to make that work right now. And, and it's not a guarantee that it's here forever, because the economics just don't work. Just the infrastructure in Waterfront Park to make the go button to where I can then go book the act. So before an act is even booked and paid for, it's $950,000 to build out Waterfront Park. And then,
so you're not selling tickets yet. You got to have that money.
And that's a private small business that's taking that risk, and they could get buried or they could make a little profit. And they're not making a lot of profit. But think about what Waterfront Blues means to the identity of the city and to many Portlanders. Talk about Pride, Cinco de Mayo, all those things. We continue to build infrastructure over and over again that costs. And so I'll back up. That infrastructure that cost $950,000 today in 2019 cost just under $600,000. And so nothing gets cheaper,
already,
you know. So it's like, these are the things that we all have to be aware of, because like right now, you talk to leadership in Portland, like, what can we do to bring the core back? And it's put people back in it. And then a lot of that, the governor's task force identified 52% of the respondents' number one answer was arts, entertainment, sports. That has to bring vibrant downtown core. Well, if we don't have kind of the ability to nurture and help those groups prosper, then they're going to go away. And so, we used to host the largest Susan Komen Race for the Cure in the country. 25,000 participants.
Wow.
Doesn't exist anymore downtown because it got too expensive to put the event on for the organizers. And that was going to charity. And so we've seen tons of nonprofit events vacate our core because they can't afford to be there. When they vacated our core, you just took on one weekend of the year for Susan Komen, 25,000 supporters that came down and spent an entire day downtown. So they did the race and everything for an hour or two, and then they went and had lunch or dinner or brunch somewhere, went shopping,
parking revenue.
Parking revenues. All these things it's a connected environment, right? So that, and if you're a great city, a great community, you have that stuff going on downtown, every weekend. And, I could go on and on examples.
No, it's fascinating.
We don't have enough time, and I talk too much.
No, it's all good. I really appreciate how you are working together. You very much have a tight-knit network of these other event organizers, event producers, people running nonprofits that are making those things happen. And there's no line between sport, arts, community events, and you guys are helping each other. I appreciate that. I do want to hear really quickly, what is She Flies? I assume it's based, the name comes from Oregon's motto, She Flies with Her Own Wings. Yeah.
So, I stepped into this job about 6.5 years ago, and there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
And I knew we had to do something in the foundation to have more impacts, and which then in turn would put a halo on the C6 too, because how do we affect communities through our foundation? They all feed off each other. So you looked around, it's pretty obvious that Oregon and Portland are one of the best places for women's sports in the country. If not number one, they're in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But I'd say we're number one.
Of
We have the longest standing LPGA event in women's golf, 53 years. That's pretty amazing. It's the longest running continuous professional women's sports event in the country. It's home in Portland, Oregon. Don't have to get into the Thorns. We all know what they've done.
Champions.
If that success hadn't happened and if this community hadn't supported the Thorns, there probably isn't a National Women's Soccer League. That franchise carried that league to get through all the rocky startup phase of the first 6 to 8 years, to let the league and other markets, build a foundation and get their sea legs. And our franchise basically subsidized those other ones. And they were the North Star. You can do this because of what Portland has demonstrated. So I would say that the Thorns get the credit for the success of its, women's soccer leagues. There's been 2 prior ones, and they both failed within 1 to 3 years. And this one now is in year 13, which if it wasn't for this market, I'm not sure the league would have found where it's at today. Maybe it still exists, but it'd be, tough. And I think there's some exciting new things that are going to happen around women's sports here very shortly. We're very bullish on. We've been advocating and pumping up. It's WNBA. We're not giving up the fight. We believe this is a great market, the best market out there for WNBA that they're not in. And we had them once for 1 year. And there's a lot of different circumstances 20-something years ago why that went away. But they shouldn't. They were highly successful when they were here. It's just the business model at that time, especially in women's sports, was just, it was tough.
It was a different time.
Yeah, different time.
Well,
so
Jim,
She Flies.
Yes.
Perfect time. Elevate, and as I talked earlier about, the inequities for young girls. Girls drop out of sports by the age of 14 at a 2 to 4 multiple, depending on the socioeconomic environment they come from boys. The outcomes we know, it's not just, like I said, stick and ball sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's all activity, especially physical activity. They could be in dance. They could be, going to spin classes. They could, whatever. They could be in the marching band.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a difference. Cheerleading. Exactly. That's a sport.
Oh my gosh, I dropped out of cheerleading around that age.
Yeah.
Am I the problem?
Well, no, there's a lot of, we work a lot with data from the Aspen Institute, and there's really solid data out there. There's a lot of reasons why. One of the biggest is young girls look to the sideline and to who's leading their team or their group, and they don't see someone like them. They most likely see a well-intentioned dad that might look like me. Yeah. And while that's great, it's not relatable, and so to see someone leading them that they can see themselves in is a massive deal. Okay. And let's face it, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Like, dads, as well intended they do, most of them just, don't understand. Right. Girls, women, and it's just the reality, and the same thing, so that's one area. How do we get more women leading young girls and giving back to that community that they thrived in, and that it is proven it dynamically changes engagement, but then just creating a level playing field, equity as far as access and all those things. Those are all critical components of it. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Jim, I know you have some gossip, so will you stay for tea? I'll stay for some tea if you'll have me. You're like, oh no. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I know you can't talk about everything because, let's just really quickly explain how much work it takes just to get a sports event here, let alone a sports team. But how far in advance are you working on something like getting an NCAA championship here? So right now we're on pins and needles because we're waiting for the next wave of announcements for the bid cycle for NCAA championships for 27 through 30. Excluding women's basketball Final Four, which we won 2 years ago. So 2030, here they come. The biggest event in women's sports, the women's Final Four, is going to be in Portland, Oregon, and we're ecstatic. But it's a North Star now that is kind of opening up a pipeline of opportunity underneath it in the years preceding. Okay. So this bid cycle, we've declared we want women's basketball in Portland leading up to, so we're hoping to win another regional. We'll find out shortly. We've also obviously had very successful hosting for men's opening rounds. The one thing that people don't realize locally is that Portland is always either 1, 2, or 3 in box office and attendance for NCAA championship events in each cycle. Wow. So this city steps into those moments and performs, and that's why we keep getting awarded. We're always one of the 1 or 2 cities that gets more than one award. Sometimes we get up to 3. It's because of this. This has been a great market for the NCAA to come through. So we're bidding on things that are 3-4 years out in that case. Other events were usually in 18 to 36 month cycle out from the event. So we have a sports tourism team that is out there working with rights holders around the country, identifying opportunities that are fits for Portland or fits for Oregon, and we have facilities that match, and then it gets into a pretty extensive bid process, and then usually if you're going to host something at a minimum 2 years out. So then you put them, and we work very closely. Wheels in motion. Yeah, wheels in motion. But in that bid process, we're working very closely with whatever municipality that's going to be hosting it, the facility that it's going to be at, Travel Portland, or other, regional convention visitor bureaus. Could be Travel Salem, it could be Eugene, it could be Medford Bend. We work closely with them, and it's a united effort. So like on the women's Final Four, the bid group was led by Sport Oregon, Travel Portland, the Blazers, because they run the facility at the Moda Center, and then we have to have a Division I institution to host. And this time it's going to be University of Portland for that event. But we've worked with Oregon State and Oregon in the past, and it's always been a unified effort. So it takes a village to win these things. Yeah. Then there are things like Rockstar Energy with the skateboarders. That opportunity team identified in January, and it actually moved very quickly because we knew it was for this summer. We saw an opportunity in a moment. We felt we're a great market. It's something different, and we're a great action sports and skateboard community here. Something that was going to be free and accessible to all levels of Portlanders, with music and skate and all this stuff. And the group that built the stadium we built in Waterfront Park actually built the stadium in Paris at the Olympics.
Oh, cool.
So it was very cool. They came straight from Paris to here. So that event, owned by Rockstar. So executives from Pepsi came in from around the country in February. They spent 3.5 days in Portland with ourselves and Travel Portland. They literally walked every block of downtown Portland and Waterfront Park. They assessed.
Do you create a parade? You're like, Q, come around the corner.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit orchestrated, but our city's had its problems, and so people come in with this predetermined idea of what Portland's going to be, and I'm proud to say we almost immediately see something different, and it's not much different from what they have. That's acknowledging that we have our problems that we have to address here in this community if we're going to thrive again, and we have a lot of work to do. But when we get them here, we have a great chance of winning, and in this case, Pepsi and their agencies came here, and it came down to us in San Diego, and we beat San Diego, and so we won this. And the women's Final Four started with West Coast cities of San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, Salt Lake, Las Vegas, all bidding to be a finalist for one of 5 spots for Final Fours. At the end, it came down to us and Sacramento as finalists, and we were the only West Coast market that won. And so, hey, that was a huge win. The NCAA is not going to give that to a market that they know they can't succeed in or wouldn't be a great host market. So we can beat the big boys and girls out there.
So you're thinking years out. Yeah.
But the Rockstar Open happened in this calendar year, and we just had it, and it's likely coming back next summer. Yeah. And that's the thing we like to. Not every event. Most events that we go are, one-offs that maybe we get them back in 4 or 5 years because they're going to cycle by region through the country. Other events can be a 1+1 or a 1+2 or 1+3. Those are awesome because then it becomes more turnkey because these are really complex efforts. We also have to work really closely with the cities that we're hosting them in. So there is no. We work really closely with the bureaus, especially Burke Nelson and Prosper Portland, and the event team there, Ness there. They're innately involved in everything we do. It goes all the way up to the mayor's office. Every city commissioner, council member, Metro, Multnomah County, they all know exactly what we're doing. We keep them all informed because we have to be connected with them because we can't be episodic with our engagements with our policymakers. We have to be in front of them every week if we're going to win together. And our wins are their wins.
I think you're the only entity that successfully brought all of them together on the same page. So
it goes back to what we started talking about at the beginning, what sports and arts and entertainment do, and events do. We all value them.
Yes.
We know what they do.
Speed round. Are we getting a WNBA team?
You always ask me this question, and I can't answer that. But yeah, I'm the biggest cheerleader.
Okay, you want it.
I feel really good about. Obviously, there's been a lot of rumors, and there's been leaks in the media here in the last week.
Ooh.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay, we absolutely will. Are we getting a Major League Baseball team? Are they turning Lloyd Center into a stadium?
No, Lloyd Center's. That's probably third on the potential list. I think we're going to know by the end of the year whether we're in the ball game to be considered by a yet to be announced expansion committee for Major League Baseball, but that is on the cusp of being created. And once that happens, markets have to be shovel ready to be considered. So right now, Portland Diamond Project is working closely with the city of Portland and several property owners in the central city on acquiring land for a stadium and entertainment sports district, a mixed use deal. It'll include housing, it'll include retail, everything. And all those things are necessary elements for any community to win. And you go around the country, we're one of only a couple that haven't reimagined our Rose Quarter.
Yes.
We need to reimagine this neighborhood around Providence Park as an entertainment district, which it is. But entertainment is mixed. It's housing. It's everything. It's,
well, to be fair, like the Albina reimagining is part of Rose.
But we're 30 years into the Rose Quarter. Okay, so and the very first proposals showed all that stuff, and we can't seem to get past ourselves. And so that is the awesomeness. The Albina Vision Trust, the energy that they have. The now that we've gotten through and created this short-term lease situation with the Rose Quarter and the Moda Center with the Blazers, it gives us some certainty. It also gives us some clarity. And so now things are in an updraft. And I feel like what's going to happen over there in the district in the next 2 to 5, 6, 10 years be transformational for this city at every level from a livability standpoint. And so, but we need to think about arts. Like we have a loosely formulated arts district around the theaters and the park blocks and South Park blocks or Central Park blocks.
But we could do better.
We could do better. We need to make them sticky and connected. And that's really critical to us too.
And we need more restaurants.
We need more restaurants around there. Exactly. Go back to small businesses. Small businesses that we pride ourselves on in our foodie community and the phenomenal restaurants. There's nowhere better. I was just in New York. You were too recently.
Portland's better all around.
I will take a Portland restaurant over in New York, and New Yorkers are all about their food, but let's face it, it doesn't hold a candle to you. Unless you want to shell out $1,000.
Yeah.
And that's...
Last question. You love the University of Portland Pilots so much that you've got a license plate on your car that reflects that. Why do you love University of Portland Pilots baseball so much?
Cut me and I bleed Portland, I believe. University of Portland Pilot Purple. Both my parents went there. My aunts and uncles went there. My dad was a student athlete there. And then he came back 4 years after graduation and started coaching there and was long-term athletic director. I think you have a brother that played.
My brother played baseball
at Joe Etzel Field. So that was
it's Etzel Field.
Yeah, yeah. It got renamed in 2004 when my dad retired after 43 years there.
Wow.
And so our family, our core values, everything kind of was shaped by our parents and around that place. And we all went to school there. A lot of the relationships and friendships we have came from there. Our family, nuclear family kind of memories and shaping was all around that campus because it was a family affair. I mean, Dad was coaching, and as I got older, I went from bat boy to caretaker of the field to press box announcer. My sisters ran ticket taking and concessions. My mom and my sisters made the sandwiches that were sold and the hot dogs in the concession stand. Like it was like small mom and pa type deal. It's gotten a little bit bigger, but it's still not like U of O or OSU with all the resources to go there. But it just it shaped me. And so I bleed it. And I've been trying to get a pilot's license plate, but it's been taken and for 30, 40 years. And my wife saw a car in front of us, and instead of an I, it had a numeral 1.
Yes.
She goes, "That's how you're going to get it." And so I got P1 lots. Pilots.
Yeah, but it clearly looks like,
and I figured, like my dad's the number one pilot, so I'm honoring him.
My license plate is game plan.
That's
so
all
I'm
right.
with you on
I
all
like
that.
it.
Yeah.
We wear it on our sleeve and our cars.
I love it. Well, let's talk about how our fans and friends can tap their inner athlete with our party segment when we're right back. All right. You want to put the OR in sports? OR, get it? Oregon sports. There are 3 events coming up that anyone can do. I know you can do it. First of all, the MLK Run and Celebration is coming up.
Soul District.
Soul District. Yes, that is a great race. I hadn't done a race for so long, and I made myself do that 5K, and I was so proud of myself. I walked a little bit. That's okay. It is really for everyone of all levels. So register for that right away. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. Also on the 28th, it's AIDS Walk Northwest. It's free registration, and then you can raise money. So you can join a team. It's definitely going to be a party for 9 a.m. on a Saturday. And the Sport Oregon Young Professionals are doing a pickleball competition fundraiser. So if you are into the pickleball wave of popularity, that's the event for you, right?
Absolutely.
And your newsletter.
She flies.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So your newsletter is amazing. It has all the events coming up, all the Sports Insider news. How do people subscribe to that?
they just go to our website, sportoregon.org, and there's a button to click to subscribe to the newsletter. You can always opt out of it. We're pretty gentle on you. It comes out every couple of weeks, but it's packed with information on what's going on around the state.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much. Everybody have an amazing weekend. And we are back next week learning about what is Metro. Okay. We'll see you then.